This is John Caglione, and you are listening to the Movie Raid.
It's time for the Movie Raid. Tonight's victim is makeup artist John Caglione Jr. that has done many films such as Dick Tracy, The Dark Knight, amongst others. Hello.
Mike, how are you, man?
What have you been up to lately, or have been in the works for a while?
Well, I trimmed the bushes around my pool yesterday, and I got up on a ladder. I got about 4 feet off the ground, and pretty proud of myself.
Well, every day's an adventure, isn't it?
Good. You know, the film business is topsy-turvy right now with this whole thing. So we're just hanging tough, man, waiting for something to open up soon. I work a lot with Al Pacino. I've been with him since Dick Tracy, and we did this TV series called Hunters, which was on Amazon. It was just great to be with Al again, and it's an honor. We shot that all in New York here, and at Steiner Studios, which is incredible, and all over the city. And it was just a dream job. Great crew, really great producers, David Wheel and Nikki Toscano, the producers, and just great directors. It was a blast.
Do you think difference in character will be different representation with this different way of filmmaking today once it gets around the bend, so to speak?
Every job is always, a learning curve, which is what you're looking for. Try to always learn something new about a character or a story. You just instead of reading books, we get to read scripts and put our imaginations to the test, and it's what I enjoy. Character development, helping the actor help create a character, actor or actress. There's certain protocols now that we have to follow on set: social distancing, wearing masks, being tested temperatures, just the protocol of working and coexisting on a set, eating meals, and no more craft service tables. I understand there's no more craft service tables. So just the physical protocol of making a film. Sure, that's going to change. It has.
Well, how do you predict, especially the makeup department or special effects, do you think that it might hinder a little bit because of these restrictions, because you're working with different kind of bases of either chemical or other stuff that you were used to and were allowed to use, but now do you think they're going to limit that too, and as well as the creativity process?
I don't know. I haven't really been on a set. Seeing some friends now, they're working, and producers, friends of mine, but I don't think the actual physical work changes too much. I've heard that they're going to stagger actors into the trailer. I've read articles where you would have a whole trailer of actors maybe, and you'll have to wear a mask and face guard and things like that. Keep a certain amount of separation between the actor and the artist. We'll get through it. We'll figure it out.
How would you want to proceed this? Even though when this happens, would you rather choose a specific area of the type of work that you like to be less restricted from, or would you really be okay with just taking whatever's there, despite of how contained it might be?
It's just in our business anyway. You take every job, and it's what we do. I don't know about many artists, unless you're very fortunate, that can pick and choose jobs. You take what comes, and then you try to figure it out in every way, in every regard. And I think in the days and months of coronavirus, it's just another thing you have to figure out and work with. So
it seems like the creativity might hinder a little bit because they're trying to almost have to piece it and step by step instead of going through the usual process.
Yeah, I guess you could be right. Beyond just the creative thing about making a film, I just think for producers, maybe from a producer standpoint, actually getting a shooting day in might be a little difficult with this thing, because people have to stop and mask, and maybe actors get staggered in and out of the trailer instead of getting all actors in and out, and onto the set. The time of shooting day, might stretch. I'm guessing will figure itself out. There's a producer, a friend of mine, and she is in Hollywood working on a show, and she says it's all about just protocol, washing your hands, wearing the mask, social distancing, and just, I guess, basically maybe a little bit more than what we're doing every day. The feeling I get from her is that it's not as bad as everyone thinks it is on the set. There are protocols, where you have to sterilize your brushes and which you should always do anyway. Make sure you're working with clean instruments and brushes and tools when you're applying makeup, and disposable things like disposable mascara wands and disposable eyeliner brushes. But there are UV machinery that you can put your tools in after you clean them with alcohol and other solvents, and you put them in the UV cleaner and it cleans them for the next application. So yeah, those types of things are, it's just a good protocol. coronavirus.
But in this profession, is it best to balance or even divide impression and expression to make the concept more approachable on the character?
I mean, that really depends on the character. It really depends on the face and, the subject matter and everything else. The example that comes to mind for me is, if you've seen the movie The Exorcist, came out in the mid-'70s, the old Father Marin in the film was played by Max von Sydow. And Max von Sydow, I think, was only like 47 years old at the time. Dick Smith, the master makeup artist Dick Smith, back in 1974, 75, did one of the most incredible makeups, old age makeups, I think, in history. He aged Max von Sydow to be old Father Marin, and the guy's whole face is rubber. It's all prosthetics. There's a case of, a makeup that kind of flies under the radar, is totally believable and works in the fabric of the story. You don't even look at it. And then, on the other hand, you have, Linda Blair's demonic makeup, kind of a reality-based fantasy makeup, and a realistic, highly realistic old age makeup back in 1975 in that film. So it depends on the script, the story, the actor, so many variables. The director, what the director wants to see, it really is a collaborative.
It's a delicate balance in between the two, because sometimes you have to make it more of an impressionist of the character, and sometimes you have to make it more of expressive. But of course, it does depend on the character, depending on whatever it is you do, because it does have a big different effect on each, and especially genres. Like if it's a monster, it's definitely going to make a huge difference between a dramatic character, and you can't just slap on something and because you can overdo it or you can underdo it, and sometimes you can meet in the middle, and sometimes it's even worse than that. And it's a really delicate process. So having you to go through this process as you go, and even though you're working with other people, it's like a subdividing the same thing, having to make this character go, because you're adding an emotional element to the actor's character himself, and they're the ones that basically mouth and move, and it's almost like a puppet. You got to have someone to be behind it and also
they bring it to life. I mean, that's the soul right there, man. It's like you do the exterior, and then the actor brings the life to it. It's the soul, the total existence of the character is really the actor. That's a fact.
And of course, adding the element of the special effects, and of course the special effects, but adding the makeup, you yourself, or adding that character, adding expression, adding age, adding whatever it needs to be to add that extra element to it, because it's like an old house. An old house has old paint, so you decide to put new paint on there, but that old paint, it's still there because it still has the two elements together, but you got a fresh new view to the audience that looks at the house.
Right, exactly. Yep, absolutely.
When an idea is drastically altered, how does the artist actually maintain a aspiring attitude and that focus to make that concept idea a part of their own work without fault? And I know faults is always going to be there, but how can they achieve that? I know it's a tricky process.
I don't know, man. It's such a collaborative thing whenever you're designing any kind of makeup. I mean, it's the actor, it's the director, but ultimately it's really your hand and your eye and your brain working toward that to try to produce the character or the makeup that fits best, with the actor's envisioning and the director and the script. So there's a lot of forces at work there, but ultimately, it's really your hand on it, so there's a part of it, an expression of yourself that goes into a layer of it as well. Or at least I would like to think so.
And every artist in the world and everybody in the world wants to have that good career of what they're working on, and fault is going to be there because you're applying something to a character, and because you're the one that's looking at this character, you're the one that's looking more observant compared to the director, compared to the actor themselves, and the audience eventually, you're always going to have a couple people going to say, well, that doesn't look very good. That doesn't look very good. And that's where your fault is, and that's where doubt comes in, and then that's where that's going to be a whole train wreck of everything through the next project or two.
Yeah, I mean, of course, everyone, like you could be in any art gallery and look at paintings when you're walking by, and some people are actually digging that painting on the wall, and some people are like, just walk right by it. So it's all interpretive art, isn't it? There's certain music you might Led Zeppelin. I love Stevie Ray Vaughan, so it's like there's Jimmy Page, great guitar player, and then there's Stevie Ray Vaughan. So to each his own, man. It really just comes down to that. My job is just to make the actor feel good in the chair, that he can or she can look in the mirror, and it helps their performance. If that works for the actor, then I've basically done my job.
Yeah, and then there's also the art aspect of things. You can apply art, but you don't have to advertise it as art on some of these artists that really wanted to present that, and presenting to just get the job done and make sure that the character looks like the character as given. That's where it should be, not like, oh, well, this is how I formed it to be. Well, that's cool, but you're applying your ability over professionalism.
Well, yeah, there's always that. And I guess what you're saying is you're hired as an artist to create for a script, for an actor. Like I said earlier, ultimately, your fingers are in the clay and you're sculpting and designing. So I can tell just in the sculpture and the final makeup now, looking at makeup for over 50 years now, what makeup artist designed that makeup? I don't even need to see the film credit. I can just tell their style in the makeup. I can tell just by they sculpt certain things in the makeup that they have a certain, like Rick Baker or Rob Bottin or any of the great makeup artists. I can just tell they have a signature style all their own. It's just like if you were going to play blues guitar. You can, if you're into guitar, you'll know what Albert King sounds like. You'll know what B.B. King sounds like. It's in there. It's built into the design of the makeup and the music.
Go and plug in any websites or anything that you care to promote or share to the audience that you'd like to add as well.
Oh, well, I have a website. If I may be so bold as to they can go on, my website, John Caglione, and, I've got a lot of stuff up there, and check it out.
Well, there you have it, everybody. That is John Caglione, makeup artist.